Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're very glad you're with us today. It is November 17th, 2021. Our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. We'll then we'll have everybody put their 30-second introductions into the chat box. We'll then go to our committee reports. We'll hear about workshop, job affairs, pit crew, interview success workshop, the career tip of the week. And then we will have our main event today and listen to our speakers. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you open up the Zoom chat window. And for those watching on Facebook, you're welcome to enter your questions into the comment field. We are monitoring that feed and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please note this event will not be recorded for the public, but is currently live on Facebook and will be deleted immediately after the event. You can see prior sessions on the Career USA YouTube channel at your leisure. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader got a job and said, who wanted to take over? And I think I scratched my face. He said, okay, Jeff, you're it. In 2008, 13 years ago, I started a website called careerdfw.org to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area by putting everything you need to know about your job search in one place. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. The practice, you'll hear more about that in just a couple of minutes. It's a great way to practice your interviewing skills. Well, we like to start the meeting off with success stories. Do we have any landings? Anybody out there land? Any good news to share from anybody? All right, I didn't get any emails this week, so I didn't hear about anything. All right, we'll move on here. What we want everybody to do now, if you will, please open up the chat box, and we want you to, in the chat box, put your 30-second introductions. We like to know, put in your name, comma, phone number, comma, email address, comma, position you're looking for, comma, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. I will put all that information out into an email this afternoon, and hopefully you'll see somebody on the list and go, oh, I can help that person. Reach out to them this weekend, see how you can help them, give them a lead, or whatever you can do. Try to help one person every day. So if you will go through, open up the Zoom chat window. For those watching on Facebook, you're welcome just to enter your information in the comment field. Like I said, I will be deleting that information and the recording right after this event is over. So I'll give everybody 30 seconds on the clock. All right, it was plenty of time. You have plenty of time to keep getting that information in there. We really appreciate it. Also, I will take that information, and that's what I use to update the roster. So if you're using this event as a workforce meeting, I will take this and use that to update the roster in case TWC comes looking to find out if you actually did it. I'll have a record of that. All right, it's time to hear about job, career fairs, training, and workshops going on. Eldon, I'm sure your list is really long for next week.
Oh, it's going to take an hour, Jeff. I hope everybody's got a lot of patience this week. Good morning, everybody. As Jeff said, my name is Eldon Zarinsky, and I'm bringing you this week's career and job fair and special workshop announcements. This information is found on the calendar tab of the website careerdfw.org, which is on your screen even as I'm speaking. I go through these items very quickly, so if you hear something that catches your eye, I urge you to go to the calendar tab, click on that item, and find out more about the event that you're interested in. There's usually a link to either register or provide more information. All right, having said that, this week's career and job fairs, there are no events scheduled this week as the calendar says. Thanksgiving is coming up next week and also the following Friday. This week's special workshops or events. Well, we only have one this week that's regularly scheduled. It's online. The Who You Know Career Transition Summit will be held Wednesday, November 24th from 10 a.m. to noon. This is hosted by Foster Williams, who's one of our local area recruiters. And if you don't know Foster, I would really urge you to get to know Foster and participate in this event. And that's it for this week. And in closing, I'd just like to wish everybody a very, very happy Thanksgiving.
Eldon, thank you very, very much. I know it was a tough, tiring week this week putting that list together.
It took quite a while, Jeff, but I'll take one for the cause. You know me.
Thank you very, very much. All right. If you know somebody who just lost their job, please let them know about CareerDFW and CareerUSA.org. Both websites are there to help anybody who's unemployed. Really appreciate you sharing the word, spread the word with other people. All right, time to hear about the practice interview team. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, good morning, everyone. And I see a few names I don't recognize. So welcome especially to first-time peoples or people early in their job search. And I want to mention that this is a great time of year to be searching for a job. It's the busiest time of year. When I got laid off for the third time, it was November 12th. And I said, okay, I'm taking the rest of the year off. Through the pit crew, though, I've come to learn that was a big mistake. And recruiting, even during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, continues, and hiring goes on as well. So keep after it. And, you know, part of what you need to do to prepare for that next interview is to come and practice with the pit crew. And so we give you a very personalized and customized interview experience based on a job description that you provide, and of course your resume. So I have a group of volunteers who have all been hiring managers. So they've all hired people as part of their professional responsibility. Most of them are also in job transition, just like you, and they volunteer their time, which means these interviews are free. They volunteer their time to help you be a better interviewer, to build your skills at answering questions, at dealing with difficult questions from interviewers or difficult interviewers, how to prepare. There's just a whole lot of information and things you need to learn about interviewing. And okay, and you know, maybe you think you're a good interviewer, but I'd still encourage you to come and practice and just see if there's anything that you could tune up a little better. So when you're ready to practice, you send in your resume and the job description to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. Also include the time you're available, plus 2 days and plus 3 days, that's business days. So what happens once I receive your information is I go to work putting together a team, 3 panelists to interview you. So I got to get all those schedules synchronized, and that takes a couple of days, sometimes 3 days. So, but we do the interviews any day of the week. We use the Zoom technology. They last about an hour and 15 minutes. So that's how much time you need to be able to budget. So just let me know when when's a good time for you, or you know, when are bad times for you, and I'll get all that sorted out. You'll get a video afterwards of the interview, and of course, the best part is right after the interview is done. You know, it takes about 45 minutes for the actual interview. You'll receive feedback on the things you did well and the things you might want to think about improving or working on, and you can come and practice as often as you like. And it doesn't matter where you are in the process. If you already had a few interviews and you want to come and practice, that's a great opportunity. Because you know, the deeper you go in the interview process, the fewer people are involved and the more critical the decisions become. So, or you can practice right up at the beginning. We've had some people practice for their phone screen. So we're very flexible. That's what I'm saying. Very flexible, very free, and very happy to help you out. Now, I just talked about the two-way. Yep, there we go. That's our two-way offering. It's face-to-face. You get a recording. It's really great. Sometimes you're asked to do a video recording, and that's a very strange experience, I got to say. So the pit crew offers a practice one-way video, and there's only one objective, and that's to get you comfortable with using the tools. Because, like I said, it's awkward. And so I give you the questions in advance. I'll give you a link to the tool that we use. It's called Easy Hire. It's a professional level tool that people pay big bucks for. Jeff got it donated to us to use for your benefit. And then you interact with the tool, you answer the 4 questions, those are recorded, and then afterwards you get a link to your recording. So you just get familiar with the tool. I gave you the questions in advance, and so go for it. Go for it, and just send me an email again at dallaspitcrew@gmail.com if you'd like to practice a one-way interview. There's my LinkedIn profile, and I'm also going to post up my contact information, phone, website, LinkedIn profile. So lots of different ways to reach me. And if you reach out to the pit crew, you're reaching out to me directly. So if you leave a message, you'll get a message from my personal cell phone, but it's not my cell phone number. It's a Google phone number. So that's how to reach me. And I also coach on why did you leave your last job? So if you're interested in having a discussion about how you answer that question, then I've got some insight to share with you. And finally, I have had quite a few panelists find jobs. Imagine that. And so, I'm very happy for them, but that means I need some more volunteers. So if you've been a hiring manager, I'd like to visit with you about what it takes to be a pit crew volunteer. And just briefly, it doesn't take a lot of commitment, and you don't have to have a lot of training. You just use what you used as when you were professional. So reach out to me if you'd like to become a volunteer during your job search.
You want to talk about the upcoming session?
Yeah, well, we're not meeting next week. We're taking a week off. So this is the practice interview Wednesday that Jeff puts together, and Walt and I have a whole series of topics that we discuss that are available on the Career USA YouTube channel. But this couple of months before Christmas, we're having some special speakers, some guest speakers speak, and so the first week of December will be distinctive interviewing with Walt Glass. So there you go. Very good presentation. And then on the 8th of December, the second Wednesday of December, is that 10 biggest mistakes that people make interviewing by Tony Bashir. That's also a great one. So those are the next 2 coming up, not next week, first week of December and the second week of December. Thanks, everybody.
Mark, thank you very much. Good morning, Walt. Interview Success Workshop.
Well, good morning, everyone. I call it the North Dallas Plano Fabulous Group instead of the Focus Group, because this is a fabulous group of people. So welcome this morning. I love to help people with their interviewing skills, and I'll start with how do you sell yourself? We really don't know how to do that very well unless we stop, think about it, define it, understand that they buy who we are, what we do, and how we can help. I see a lot of interviews focused on what we do and the I do part, when in actuality, they're not only hiring us for what we do, but they really want to see what kind of results we can achieve and how we can meet their goals and objectives. And that's the I help piece. So I'll put together a workshop. And so you get a video, you get an interview, but the difference is it's very informal. You can actually stop and think of an answer. Isn't that something that would be unique to use in a regular interview? So one of the hardest things to learn is to stop talking while we're thinking. Preparation is going to yield that skill and confidence for your successful job interview. So what we do is we cover the 11 basic categories of questions, the fundamentals, give you supposedly thoughts, actions, ideas, options. I can't tell you how to answer a question. It depends on who's asking, what the question is, and where you are in the process. But we do have options on how we can answer the different types of questions and which options do we want to choose. So all you have to do is look me up on LinkedIn under Walt Glass. You can see more information about the workshop. You have to be registered to attend. Send me that email to my Yahoo address, which I reserved just for the workshop alone. And I'll give you some dates of availability. I generally hold it on Tuesdays from 9 to 11 Central. But I can also, if demand needs it, I can schedule other ones during the week. It's not a problem. The thing is to really differentiate ourselves from other people in an interview. What we can do in this workshop, we can have some learning without squirming. The interview experience can be great, not a time for fear and hate. You can put a job on your plate after you learn to differentiate.
Thank you very much, Walt. All right, it's time to hear the career tip of the week. You can find the career tip of the week on the Career DFW or Career USA website. There's a new tip every week. There is even going to be a special tip next week for Thanksgiving. So, Liz, good morning.
Well, good morning and good morning, everyone. Excuse me. The tip of the week is 10 little things that make a big difference to hiring managers by Laura Smith Prue and Jenna Arcand. As a former hiring manager in several consulting firms, I often wondered if candidates were cognizant of the impression they made on employers. Even small things such as a frown displayed by an applicant upon arriving at an interview, or the worn out jeans on an applicant in a room full of suits, gave me pause as I worked to screen candidates. Ironically, many of the issues I spotted could have been easily fixed by taking care of seemingly minor issues. In some cases, these corrections would have made the difference between hiring the job candidate and taking a pass on the applicant. So here are 10 little things that make a big difference to hiring managers in your job search. Number 1, your dignity identity. Yes, recruiters and hiring managers will be checking out your LinkedIn presence and verifying that your Facebook and Instagram activity is not violating their corporate policies. But have you stopped to think about your tweets or the content you're creating on TikTok? Even the most realistic employer will need to assess your liability as a potential new hire. Therefore, your online activity must be sufficiently toned down and presentable to a potential company long before you enter the job market. Number 2, your honesty. Are you struggling to hide employment gaps in your work history on your resume? Failing to mention that new job you just took that isn't working out, and white lies or sins of omission on your resume and in your interviews will come back to haunt you in more ways than one. If interviews don't catch lies during the resume screening process, there's still a chance that your background check will reveal all. And even after you're hired, your record of impeccable service won't make up for less than fortnight stories on your resume or LinkedIn profile. Number 3, your accessibility. Are you opening up on LinkedIn that others can contact you? Or did you forget to make your email address and mobile number visible to other users? Here are some best practices for ensuring that you're more easily reached on LinkedIn. From the Edit Profile menu, look under the box with your name and headline that says Edit Contact Info. Here you can fill in your email address and phone numbers. Joining groups is also an important step in becoming accessible to employers. Sharing a group with another user means he or she can reach out to you for free. This is important for recruiters maximizing their LinkedIn budgets. And don't forget that the contact information section, select privacy and settings from the top right. Just hover your mouse under the name and choose the communications tab at the bottom left. Select the types of messages you're willing to receive. Add a paragraph in the advice to people who are contacting you box that includes your preferences for email, phone, LinkedIn, or messages. And number 4, you sent in a resume but failed to take any action beyond pressing the send button. If you didn't spend some time following up or identifying company insiders for further networking, your job search will take longer. Doing some homework on employers' business needs and identifying key people for personal follow-up shows them you're truly interested in a career opportunity and that you've given thought to solving their business problems. Be sure to use formal channels when applying for a posted job, and then reach out to your newly found contacts to reiterate your interest in joining the company. And better still, connect and network with employees at the companies on your interview list well before you start your job search. Number 5, the tone of your cover letter or LinkedIn message. Are you cranking out LinkedIn messages or cover letters at top speed with just a few adjustments here and there? Hiring managers can smell a form letter approach a mile away, and nothing says I'm desperate and don't care about your needs more than a disjointed cover letter on a LinkedIn message that simply asks for a job. No matter how you're getting in touch with employers, take the time to write a brand-specific message of value to them, helping them discover who you are, what you offer, and why you're interested in a position with their company. And this means customizing each LinkedIn message and writing disruptive cover letters. You may not be able to crank them out as fast, but you'll be sacrificing quantity for quality. And in a job search, quality is always better than quantity. Number 6, your demeanor when arranging the interview. When setting up any kind of business meeting, there's a certain amount of give and take required for coordination. And no matter how in demand your skills may be, you'll be expected to acquiesce to interview timing and location parameters set by employers. And that can mean dealing with less than helpful receptionists or HR personnel, all of whom will be taking notes on your reactions. Your phone etiquette and email communications will be watched closely, and a courteous and respectful tone will go miles in reinforcing your personal brand and potential as a job candidate. Number 7, your appraisal of the interviewer. Feeling put out by the fact that your interviewer appears younger, more inexperienced, or otherwise beneath you in the professional hierarchy? Be careful how you convey this disapproval. And you may believe you're hiding your feelings, but as one of those younger looking interviewers, I often pick up on the tone very quickly. And even if you decide mid-interview that you're not interested in the company, remember to display a high degree of professionalism. You never know how well connected your interviewer might be. And number 8, your discretion. Polarizing hot button subjects such as politics or religion should make the way out of your resume, LinkedIn profile, interview discussions, and side conversations. No matter how neutral or popular you consider your stance to be on these topics, there's bound to be someone who disagrees with you and who votes against hiring you. Number 9, your post-interview actions. Yes, you should be sending a thank you note to employers after your interviews. And whether a short handwritten card, LinkedIn message, email, or even hard copy letter, a thank you note gives employers the impression that you're gracious and appreciative job candidate. A post-interview note can also be used to address lingering questions, counter potential objections, or mention a fond memory you have of the experience to highlight a connection you made with the individual at the company. Be sure to address your notes to each person you've encountered in the interview process, and especially if you've met with a panel or a group. And number 10, the frequency of your messages. Just because social media lets you send messages faster than ever doesn't mean you should pester employers. Follow up once or twice after applying for a job should suffice to let them know you're still interested in a position. The same is true of the post-interview period. Hiring managers have companies to run and customers to serve. In addition to the process of choosing you, they may also have other candidates to consider. And staying on an employer's radar is important, but so is professional discretion. Aim for somewhere in between silent and stalker in your follow-up activities. Good luck, everyone, and have a good rest of your day and a happy Thanksgiving.
Liz, thank you very much. I didn't realize how long this one was, but I guess it balances out. Eldon had very little to say. You had a long one today, so thank you.
I did. I thought it was all important.
Yeah, some real good basic things that you think may or may not think about. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, today, if you'd like to join us for lunch, today at 12:30, we'll be going to Mama's Pizza. They have pasta, they have a big salad bar. And of course, I think Eldon's favorite is the cinnamon roll that they also have. Nice, hot, warm, gooey, covered cinnamon rolls. So if you'd like to join us today at 12:30. Mama's Pizza. It's on West Parker, about a half block west of Custer. So it's on Parker. All right. We'd like to, through the presentation here, especially for our speakers, if you'd like to, please turn on your camera so we can see you. This is going to be an interactive session today that is being put on. So if possible, turn on your camera so we can see you. It'll help the two speakers who are talking today. So coming up in just a second, Dr. Rozan Christian will be with us, and Carol Brickell will be talking about the psychological impact of unemployment. We all get down when we're looking for jobs. It's tough. It's really easier to have a job than it is to look for a job. So we'll be talking about that in just a couple minutes. All right, upcoming sessions. Next week, we will not have a meeting. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving. It's the most boring day of the year for me because for the last 45 weeks, I've been here every Friday, and next Friday, I'll be sitting going, well, I should be here, but there's nobody else going to be here because it's the Friday after Thanksgiving. So yeah, to me, it's the most boring Friday of the year. On the first Friday of the month, as we do every first Friday, we'll do open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about. And then on the 10th of December, Medicare, medical insurance update and common pitfalls to avoid. If you're dealing with COBRA, if you're dealing with signing up for Medicare and any of those kind of issues, we'll have an expert to talk about those kind of issues. And then the following week is actually our last meeting on the 17th. And as we have for the last several years, we're going to talk about taxes. What do you need to know about being unemployed? Things you can deduct, things you can't deduct. And that'll be our last show on the last seminar, last workshop will be on the 17th. Okay, it's time for our main event, the psychological impact of unemployment. So I'm going to turn it over to Carol and Dr. Christian, and it's up to you all at this point. And I'll let you all introduce yourself.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much, Jeff. And it's great to see such a great audience here today. And if you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my second monitor where I can monitor the chat and also the participant box as well. So this will be a different type of session. I see some familiar names, and some people may have seen me do, the Thursday webinars about resumes with lots of PowerPoint slides and lots of direction about how to do your resume. Today, it's going to be a more serious discussion. And the role I'm playing in this discussion is I'm actually just going to be the interviewer and interviewing Dr. Rozan Christian. So it'll be different. And then for those that don't know me, just by way of background, I've been a hiring manager for many years. I worked for a global IT firm for many years. And then I took early retirement in 2012 so I could get a job as a recruiter because I knew ultimately I wanted to become a career coach. And so now I'm a certified professional career coach. And today we're going to be talking about kind of the tough stuff regarding unemployment and the ups and downs of being unemployed. And I like that quote that says, be kind because everyone's fighting a battle. And, I've been through tough stuff too, so I can understand and empathize with what we'll be talking about today. I was laid off just before my 60th birthday. So I know what it's like to be part of a layoff and looking for a job at age 60. Then I found a job that I loved. And then 6 months later, I was diagnosed with, and some of you may know this and some may not know this, but I was diagnosed with advanced stage lung cancer in 2019. And so I had to step away from full-time work. And then I started volunteering with the pit crew and got certified as a career coach and then started a career coaching practice. And I've been lucky, even though it's advanced stage lung cancer, it's caused by a genetic mutation. And the reason I'm lucky is that there's recent research. So I've been through recent types of treatments, targeted therapy pills, and occasionally go through chemo. And right now I'm going through some chemo, and then I'll go back to the targeted therapy pills. We just have to keep my gene from mutating. So I've been through the tough stuff too. And in today's session, as I mentioned, I'll be interviewing Rozan and asking her questions, and I'll be watching chat, but we probably won't get to your questions till the end of the session. So if you do have questions, you're welcome to submit them in the chat box. And if you want to stay anonymous, whenever I read a question out loud, I won't say anybody's name. And if you really want to be anonymous, you can send it just to me. You can send it to everyone, or you can send it just to me, and I will just simply read the question. So this is a time to ask anything you'd like to ask. So I do have a series of questions I want to get through with Rozan, and then we'll take your questions at the end. And I'm really grateful for Rozan for being here today and working us in between two patient or client sessions that she's conducting. So thank you so much for joining us, Rozan. And so I've given a little introduction about myself, and I was wondering if you could just kind of introduce yourself and your background.
Thank you, Carol. And I'm very honored to be with each of you here today and talking about this topic of unemployment and the emotional, psychological impact in our lives. I spent the first 15 years of my career in the corporate world. That's actually where I met Carol. We worked for the same company. I met her on my very first day of work a few years ago. It was around the age of 40 that I made the decision to go back to school and get my PhD in counseling. And that's been several years ago as well. And during that time, I was given the opportunity to do a lot of research around the topic of grief and loss and the impact in all aspects of our lives. And then for the past 10 years, I've spent a great deal of time studying the whole area of pattern analysis. What do patterns inform us about? And as we can understand more about patterns, how they can help us to be more engaged in the decision-making process of our lives. And once I got my PhD, I did go into private practice. I've done a significant amount of career counseling, specifically with government agencies, a couple of different agencies that were going through transitioning employees out of the agency and helping those individuals find jobs back in the private sector. And I currently, in addition to my private practice, I currently teach a class at SMU in their master's program. Individuals in the state of Texas are required to take a class in how to help clients deal with career-related issues. And so I teach that class to students who are getting their master's in career counseling or in counseling and helping them to do career counseling with clients in the future. So that pretty much is what I need to say.
Yes, yeah. And we got started in our careers together, so it's
We did.
wonderful to maintain this friendship over time. And to get started, I just kind of wanted to ask an open-ended question because Rozan, you and I did this session a year ago, and we've had the pandemic. And I'm just curious what you've observed over this past year as you've dealt with your clients in your counseling practice. And I know some of them are looking for jobs. What kinds of trends or things have you seen over this past year?
I would say at the very top would be anxiety. There's a significant amount of anxiety, whether it be worrying about finding a job, worrying about, am I going to be going back into the office? When am I going to be going back into the office? Am I going to be exposing myself to people who may give me COVID? All of the anxiety related around the disease itself and the uncertainty of the future. I think that people are really beaten down by the uncertainty, the confusion that has gone on. But one of the things that I really have observed with my clients has been the social anxiety, that now, how am I going to go back into the office, or how am I going to interview? Am I going to interview over Zoom? Am I going to interview in person? If I'm now going to interview in person, I now have to exercise that muscle that I haven't used in a while because I've been sitting at home. Or going out and doing networking meetings, and now I'm in front of people, and how do I interact? So the whole area around the social aspect, that as a result of the isolation that we've all experienced, how am I going to be back out there but most of all, just that the worrying about what is the future going to hold. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I think everybody can relate to that. And I'm an extrovert, and I found after being locked up in the pandemic and then between chemo treatments, yeah, it's kind of scary to go back out in the world again. Yeah, so certainly can relate to that. And you mentioned as you were introducing yourself the concept of kind of being a pattern analyst. And I'm curious how you use those concepts in your counseling practice.
Okay. Well, we could, if I just spoke about patterns, there are patterns in human nature, there are patterns in nature. And we see in nature right now a pattern that we may not even think about it, but we're going from fall into winter. And there are specific patterns that we see as we're going from fall into winter. I have this amazingly beautiful oak tree in my front yard. And then if any of you have an oak tree in your yard, it's been dropping acorns, and you can predict that there are going to be acorns dropping this time of the year. And I just noticed a couple of days ago that the leaves are starting to turn a little bit of that orangey color. I mean, we can predict that things are going to happen. If they don't happen, then we know that there's something that's wrong. Something has changed, and we need to pay attention to what that change is. Some of you may have, if you step back and look at before you were unemployed, you might even be able to have predicted that the unemployment was on the horizon, because you could begin to see behaviors, attitudes, the way people were interacting that gave you information about, what was getting ready to happen. I mean, if you went to a wedding versus a funeral, no one has to tell you that you're at a wedding or a funeral. You see it through the behaviors, the way people are dressed between a wedding and a funeral. And with unemployment, there are predictable patterns that we can speak to when someone has been unemployed. Each of you know, all of you that are on this call that are unemployed, you have entered into a world that you did not want to be a part of. Your world has been in some ways turned upside down. There's a sense of shock, fear when you first were told that your job is ending. Obviously, it's going to look differently the specifics for each of you. But when I'm working with someone who has told me, I think I'm going to lose my job, or I've lost my job, now what? I'm going to start asking questions about, where are you financially? Are you a month away from being without any money, or are you a year away from needing to really get serious about finding a job? There are predictable things that, this. But one of the things that I can, in helping my clients in understanding the nature of the pattern is, how adaptable are they? How adaptable? How can you adapt to the fact that you are unemployed? And research shows that this is the number one concept that individuals who are able to move forward is, how adaptable are they? So those are, when I look at it from a pattern standpoint, there are specific attributes, feelings, thoughts that individuals are going to experience. So just to know that you're not alone in that process.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I see that also in my career coaching practice, that adaptability is so important, because sometimes people need to kind of transition their skills or learn new skills to keep up with the job market. So that adaptability is important. And then also a pattern that I see fairly frequently, and those of all of the participants here probably see it as well. A pattern that happens a lot is when people apply for a job, they don't get called for interviews. They feel like their resume is going to a black hole. So I spend a lot of time coaching people on what to do to increase their chances to get an interview. Because if you apply for a job and just sit back and wait, the pattern is the chances it's only about a 2% chance you'll get called for an interview. So you actually have to take extra steps and find somebody at that company, either a friend that could forward your resume over to the recruiting team, or the recruiter or the recruiting manager, and reach out to them and let them know you meet the requirements. And that increases your chances. So I find people do run into those patterns. So thank you for that. And then also, Rozan, I was curious from your perspective, what do you find people are feeling when they're unemployed? What are the feelings that you're seeing?
Oh,
If anybody wants to type into chat what they feel, you're welcome to, and you can send it just to me privately if you wish. I won't read any names.
well, first, that fear, just that overwhelming fear of what's going to happen to me. Am I going to find another job? When will I find another job? Will I find a job that I, want to do? Am I going to be underemployed? The shock of the dread of having to get back out there and, go through the interviewing process, the whole job search process. But just knowing that life as you know it is no more, and there are no simple solutions. And each of you know that, but that this isn't a simple, easy process.
Yeah. And as you and I have talked over the years, I've heard you describe, being jobless as like experiencing a trauma, especially if you've been laid off. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, this is really my area of specialty as a therapist, is the whole area of trauma. And when I teach my class over at SMU to students that are getting their masters, I speak a lot about, there are different types of trauma, and job loss can be a very traumatic experience. Something has been taken away from you, and you had nothing to do with that process. And when you think about a traumatic event, something has happened to you that could, really impact your physical and psychological well-being. And losing a job is and you didn't have anything to do with it. And I think that a lot of people, when they're in this state, they think, what did I do wrong? Did I upset somebody? Should I have worked on this project? Should I, the shoulds and the oughts and the had, must have, and we become very critical of ourselves when in fact, you did nothing wrong. You just happened to be one of the people who was let go. But that feeling of being overwhelmed and not being able to clearly see what's going on. And there's truly a grieving. Many of you may feel that this is like a death. And this is the tough part, because something that you did is no more. A way that you expressed yourself, maybe the people that you worked with, you don't get to see them any longer, certainly not in the same way. And this time of year is oftentimes very difficult for people who have lost family and friends to death. And so this losing the job can be about losing the job, but it can also bring up all of the other losses in your life that you might have experienced, and triggering those experiences as well. So don't be surprised if you feel somewhat, uncertain. And I do like this, where you feel like you're rattled, because that very much could be at play. And but just living through a trauma, and some of you may label this as a very traumatic experience for you. It doesn't have to be one of the big traumas of being held up at knife point or gunpoint or whatever, but it's been a blow to your psyche.
Absolutely. And somebody wrote a private, thoughtful message in chat, just saying that their identity was very much tied with their careers.
Yes.
Jobless makes them feel like their identity has been lost.
It's a wonderful point. Thank you for saying that, because yes, it's very much about, I am a, and fill in the blank. And if I am not a, if you fill in the blank, then who am I? And yeah, I want to add one other thing, Carol, that a lot of times when we've experienced a trauma and losing, your job as being a traumatic experience, those coping mechanisms that we have used in the past, I just encourage you to pay attention to them. Is your coping mechanism to freeze, to run, or to fight? And those are real. So if you're someone who your coping mechanisms have been to withdraw and to hunker down and freeze, you need to pay attention to that, because that could keep you from getting, when it's time to get back out there and start, the job search process, it could delay it. If you are someone who your defense mechanism or your coping mechanism was to fight, then you might find yourself, well, I'm going to fight my employer. I'm going to get, extra compensation. I'm going to get that job. And we focus on what the past and, staying in the fight, and then making it difficult in our interviewing because we're ticked off, and, and we make it difficult for ourselves. Or if we run, we fight, we fly, we flee, and I say oftentimes say to clients, you're running. The running is going to come out in possibly whatever your addictive behavior is. If it's eating, drinking, spending money, whatever it may be, that's oftentimes how the flight comes out. So paying really close attention to this now, are your coping mechanisms helping or hindering you?
Very interesting. And a few other people have mentioned some of their feelings. One has a feeling that age is a factor in finding their next job. So ageism.
Absolutely. And that's a fact. And so as part of the pattern of unemployment, I could sit here and try to blow smoke and say, it's not an issue. You need just to get over it. But you would know I don't know what I'm talking about, because that's not the objective truth. The objective truth is that ageism is a factor. And this is where, like Carol was saying, being adaptable of, finding maybe different avenues with your skill set. And this is where someone like Carol can help you to look at those skills and knowledge sets that you have, and how am I going to move them into a different type of career that I might not have ever thought out about before. So
yes,
and there has to be an optimism. And I know that's easy for me to sit here and say, but there, in that job search process, there has to be an optimism about there's something out there for me.
Yes. And some of the services that we talked about earlier in the program, like practicing interviewing with the pit crew or going to Walt Glass's session, can help you try to have a little bit of that enthusiasm as you're interviewing, because it's rough when you get laid off and you're facing ageism and you want to present yourself in a positive way. Those are a couple places people can practice. Another feeling that a person mentioned is that they're having a little hard time letting go of is, how did I not see this coming? They're kind of blaming themselves, like, why did I get blindsided? And just from a career coach and a corporate person, I just know behind the scenes, decisions get made and they don't let the person know until the day of. It's just kind of a terrible way things happen. So I don't know if you have any comments about, people that are struggling with feeling that I should have seen this coming, but and how to let go of
Well,
that.
sometimes our denial helps us, if you look back and you are able to see, oh yeah, there was a pattern. If you've not been through it before, we're unconscious to it. It's not in our awareness, that, that this is even happening. It's not like you're walking around. I mean, if you were, I'd be concerned that you were walking around your anxiety on high alert of, I'm going to be laid off. I'm going to be laid off. But oftentimes, it serves us well to not know.
Yeah, actually, it does. So is there anything else you want to say about trauma and how you work with your patients regarding trauma? And if not, I'll move on to the next question. I want to see if there's anything else.
Well, I will just say that in working with any of my clients, and I think we're going to talk about this a little bit more in detail in a little bit, Carol, but in working with clients, the main thing for healing to take place for you around just the depression, the anxiety that you feel right now, there has to be a safe container. And when I'm working with a client, and that means that there is a safe place that they come every week, same time, same day of the week. And so for you, having that contained space that there's some predictable things that you're going to do throughout the week that that give you a sense of groundedness, and knowing that you can count on Tuesdays, or I don't know what day you all have your pit crew, but knowing that on that day I'm going to do my interviewing on Friday mornings at 9:30. I come to Jeff's this group. I meet for lunch with a friend on Mondays or whatever. There's some predictability that you can begin to put into place, because with trauma, it's as if what held you has been shattered and you're trying to put it back together. That space that contained you. You knew that you got up on Monday morning, you got dressed. I mean, you used to go to the office, but wherever your office is, you fixed your cup of coffee, you had breakfast, you went in and you sat down, you turned your computer on, and you knew you were going to be in a certain meeting at a certain time. And all of those things that you could predict, they are no longer there. And so finding those places that there is consistency is really, really important.
Great, good. And then sort of related to this, what do you recommend for job seekers as they go through kind of just the normal ups and downs? The moods, people feel a sense of grief and sadness and worry, and some days maybe feel a little bit better. But as people are going through the normal ups and downs, what do you recommend as a counselor? And then I'll share what I recommend sometimes as a career coach.
Yeah. And this requires being able to tap into what's going on inside, of your anxiety, your am I depressed today? But it's being able to regulate your emotions. And Carol's saying the highs and the lows, but being able to know that today I'm not doing okay. And maybe I need whatever it is that helps you. Maybe it's going to lunch with that friend or picking up the phone and calling someone. But in those low, you may have just gotten the message that you didn't get the job. You've gone through the interview process and you were the second one on the list. Oh, yay. And so you've dropped into that pit, but being able to have the objectivity to say, of course I'm not feeling well today, and maybe I need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to, just step back and do my needlepoint today, but it's being able to check in and to be able to regulate those highs and lows, but as almost as an observing eye. And, the language that I use is staying awake. Uh, we can go to sleep and not recognize when we aren't doing well. I mean, and so when we're asleep, we're asleep. We don't know. But being able to stay awake to noticing, okay, when I'm really low, I need to do something different. I need to have that person who helps even point it out for me when I'm not doing so well. But most of all, if you find that you're stuck, are you open to change? Are you being able to be adaptable? Because I'm telling you that is the number one thing today. I was sharing this with Carol the other day, that back when she and I first started in the corporate world, stability wasn't even an issue because there were no layoffs. This is before layoffs. This was before, all of the benefits being taken away. So we just took that for granted. And so the company was going to take care of you. Well, today you're going to take care of you, and you're managing your career. And all of the career research speaks to career management. You're now in charge. And if you're having a hard time doing that, reach out to your support system, whatever that may be.
Mhm. Yeah, you're so right. Things were so different back then, where, having security and benefits, nobody really thought about it because it was provided, but now it's so important. And as a career coach, I often, it's often a conversation about the ups and downs of looking for a job. And sometimes, I'll ask people if they mention they're feeling depressed, I'll ask them if they have resources, such as somebody like yourself that can really help them. I'm a career coach and I can help with some job search strategies, but I double check that sometimes. And then from a job search strategy to help people when they're having ups and downs, sometimes in the initial session after somebody's been laid off and they're thinking of getting another job, they feel beat down and they can't remember what they're good at. And so sometimes in the very first session, I have a series of questions that I ask people to help them really uncover their talents, their desires, and help enlighten the pathway forward, what type of job to look for. And I actually love doing those types of sessions because I've seen people go from 0 to 100 in terms of mood, like, oh yeah, I was good at that. It's like they needed somebody to help remind them of them. I just ask questions, tell me stories about, when you were successful or doing something you loved, that type of thing. And then also when people have been looking for a while and they feel stuck and they reach out and just need a session, I'm stuck. And I start brainstorming with them. Okay, what have you been doing in your job search? What's been working well? Where are you getting stuck? And then I start brainstorming with them of different strategies they could do. Have you done a direct mail campaign about yourself? People go, what's that? I said, write a networking letter to your favorite top 20 people on LinkedIn to let them know that you're available and these are the kind of jobs you're looking for. And here's some target companies. That's just one strategy. Or make a list of your target companies or make an executive bio. There are a lot of different activities that people can do. Or people that have been hiring managers can start volunteering with the pit crew. So if you've ever conducted a job interview, it's great to get involved in an organization and network with people. And you might hear about job leads when you network. So I love doing those types of conversations with people too, to kind of brainstorm about that. So,
and Carol, to add to that, when I'm working with someone and their anxiety or their depression isn't a major issue that we're dealing with as it relates to their career search, their job search. Um, I often ask, how much energy are you putting into your job search? And if they say, I'm spending, maybe 3 hours a week, I'm like, well, you're going to get 3 hours of energy back. And so, how much energy are you able or willing to put into it? And the more that you're putting out there, there's more energy going out there to find a job that is going to be coming back to you in some form, some fashion. We don't know how, and we don't know, when. That's not ours to know, but ours is to put it out there and to do our part. Because the reality is, in a person that I really admire him, he said to me, he said, you're not nearly as much in control of the whole show as you think, or we are not nearly as much in control of the whole show as we think we are. And so we do our part, and then, the universe is going to give back when and ever how. But the trying to control everything will cause more anxiety and certainly more depression.
Yeah, there's a lot of things out of our control. Yeah. I get a lot of questions from people like, well, the hiring manager hasn't gotten back with me. And I said, they're probably in meetings, they're probably busy. Don't read anything into it. Just follow up, see if they need anything, let them know you're still interested, still available. Good,
Carol,
good.
can I speak to that real quickly?
Sure.
This is like really hard. And when I'm working with a guy right now who he's been waiting for months for a decision. I mean, related to a licensure issue. He's have been waiting for, months and months. And this is a guy who not historically his way of coping is to run and to get into trouble and so to hold. And that I think is, this person who's saying that the hiring manager is not getting back to me, this is really tough because you're asked to hold, and holding can be very, very frightening. It can bring up all kinds of fears related to other areas of your life. But, if you have that support system that you can hold with you, but you have to hold. This is where you don't want to call the hiring manager if your coping mechanism has been to fight and, and to say, when are you going to make that decision? You'll blow your feet off. I mean, not literally, but you are, if you do that. So being able to hold during this time is critically important, which is part of what I'm talking about, the container that your rituals that you set up with your week. It's really important.
It is. It is. Yeah. When you talk about those rituals, I spend a lot of time with my coaching clients of okay, what is your plan for the week? How many jobs are you going to apply for? What networking sessions are you going to do? What volunteer work? What is your schedule for the week? What are your goals? And people kind of enjoy that. I think they find comfort in that.
Absolutely.
And then having somebody to hold them accountable. And I know through Jeff's organization, the PIT crew, people meet each other and form these accountability groups and kind of keep each other accountable
to those wonderful
patterns. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
That's the holding. That's part of the holding.
Yes.
Because we want, we're doing like, I don't have to tell you, but I'm sure many of you are inside, or it's like this, the uncertainty. It's too much at times.
Right. And so we've talked about kind of the normal ups and downs, and it's very normal to feel it. I felt it even when I retired from EDS and was looking for a job. There are ups and downs. However, I wanted to ask you more seriously, what should people watch out for in terms of warning signs that it might be time to get additional help?
I'm going to go back to the coping skills that you have in place.
Mm-hmm.
If those coping skills are life taking, and you're having trouble, you're staying in the pattern of playing those negative coping skills out, that might be a time when you need to reach out. And what I mean by that is if you aren't able to get out there and get the job search process going because your depression has you frozen, you can't get out of bed, you can't, your anxiety is so high that the thought of picking up the phone or emailing someone to meet you for lunch is so overwhelming. Or if you find yourself that some of your addictive behaviors are getting in the way, maybe drinking too much or whatever it may be. Or if you're finding that your relationships with people, you're becoming, very aggressive. If fighting was the way that you handled, stress, throughout your life, with it, this situation, it brings everything under, that the intensity of it and the worst of us can come, can start to emerge. So if you're finding that your relationships are taking hits and you're in fear that the relationships are going to end, those would be some of the ways that I would ask you to pay attention. And it might be a time for you to reach out. And then I pray that this isn't the case, but if any of you are seriously considering harming yourselves, I certainly don't know who's on the call, but the fact that you're on this call gives me some belief that you're still engaged in life. But if not, you certainly need to reach out for help. So.
Yeah, and something I learned about that is a longtime childhood friend of mine was going through some normal anxiety, and then she got laid off from a job and was terribly worried about finances. And there was a day she was concerned that she was going to harm herself. And so she was smart and picked up the phone and called her therapist. And then her therapist said, okay, hang up, go to the ER right now. Mm-hmm. And so she went to the ER, and that saved her life.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't have known that to be a resource, that if you're feeling, that low, get yourself to an ER. And it may be, they gave her something to get kind of the chemicals balanced in her brain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that I learned. Yeah. From real.
It's a very important point, Carol. Very important. Most of us wouldn't know that,
Mm-hmm.
that to either get to an ER or call 911. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other resources? I know you've mentioned Psychology Today has a database.
Yeah. So Psychology Today has a database of therapists, throughout the United States, but certainly specifically within DFW. The only other place that I can recommend is and this would be after the first of the year when the classes start at SMU again. With their master's program, they have a clinic set up where students who are about to graduate actually can see clients. So if money is an issue and you believe you really would like some help, the students who are about to graduate see clients there, and they're under supervision with the faculty at the SMU clinic. It's a great resource.
Resource.
Yeah.
So how would people find that? I guess go to
Carol, what I can do is give you that information later, and then you can,
Okay.
if you can post it or whatever.
And I'll share it with
But
Jeff.
yeah. Their clinic is,
Tremendous.
I don't know, it's just right here at SMU Boulevard and Central Expressway.
That
So,
is a
really close
tremendous
to the
resource.
SMU campus. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So at this time, I'd like to open it up to our audience to ask any questions in chat. And once again, you can send your chat message just to me if you wish, and I won't read your name. So you can ask anything if you'd like. And then once we get through the questions, I'll have Rozan kind of summarize some thoughts at the end. And I do see one question that has come in again about age. Why is age such a limiting issue with employers? Why aren't there companies that focus on hiring people, with more experience? And it seems more obvious than I imagined. And one thing that I know as I've worked with clients as a career coach, sometimes we'll go on the LinkedIn pages and just click on people. You could click on the company page on LinkedIn and then click on people and just look at the people and see, does that company tend to hire or have people on staff? Diversity of age and all, different types of diversity, or is everybody 20 years old? And to kind of find companies with cultures that value experience. As I was looking for a job at age 55 and 59, I was networking with people I knew, but also networking with companies that appreciated experience. And, they knew I would make a commitment if I got a job there. Whereas people in their 20s and 30s tend to stay on average at a job for maybe 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. And those of us that are older, we're willing to make a commitment. So I don't know if you have any other comments about that.
I think your point, Carol, about this, it's going to take more work, but finding those companies that do the values of that organization align with yours.
Yes.
The culture. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And somebody typed in a coping strategy they have, and that's kind of similar to me. When you're feeling those natural ups and downs, find some activity that brings you joy. And somebody mentioned watching, fun movies on Hallmark. Sometimes,
absolutely.
If you're having a bad day, think, okay, this is
it's going to end well.
Yeah, it's not a good day for me to network. I'm just going to watch a fun movie for a couple hours. Give myself a break. I was actually coaching somebody the other day, and they were having a tough day. And I said, don't feel like you have to do something job related today. Do something fun if you wish. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Okay. Oh, and Jeff, thank you for posting a Glassdoor article about companies hiring over 50 so that you can search for things like that. And several links there. Okay. Does it have anything to do with, as an older person myself, I don't want a fast-paced environment. I don't think it's even healthy. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you.
Yeah. The first half of life is about getting out there, and we all know we were there, getting out there, working the crazy hours. That's what the first half of life is about establishing ourselves in the world out there, and getting the home, having the relationships, or whatever work was your journey of getting your life situated in the outer world. And the second half of life is about the inner world. It is about, I don't want to work 60-hour weeks. I don't, and physically, we don't have the stamina that we had when we were 30 or 40 even. Those are real. That is an objective truth. That is a pattern. A career. I mean, I spend a lot of time in my class, careers across the lifespan. If I were to go out and change careers at my age, it would still look differently than someone who was in their 30s. It's a fact.
Absolutely.
And so, and we have to own that. I mean, and how do we want to move through our world? And that, I think, is where a career coach or a counselor like myself can help somebody who is, how do I want the last, 20 years or whatever of my career to look, and being able to take more of an active role in it.
Right. And as a career coach, sometimes what I'll do is ask people to write down their values. And I have an article with a list of values you can choose from. And that's one of them. One of your values is working in a place that isn't just frenetic, just crazy, fast paced. You want to work in a place where you can do a good job. You may have deadlines, but it's not crazy like that. So listing those things that are of value to you, so that when you're looking for jobs, you can assess. When they're interviewing you, you're also assessing the situation. And
Absolutely.
Yes. And when you get a job offer, you need to weigh it against what's valuable to you. Okay. And then let's see. Yeah. And somebody, I'm just reading some of the comments. Unfortunately, some employers Google us to find out more about us. Yeah. And so you do have to make sure your digital image out there is clean.
Absolutely. And you probably teach that in what you put out there on Facebook.
Right. Yeah, Instagram and Twitter and everything.
Absolutely.
And then this is a very real fear. Some people are feeling fears of getting a job and then getting laid off again, and just having trouble trusting employers after being laid off so many times. And I will say, as a career coach, I want to say at least 90% of the people I deal with have been laid off once, twice, or whatever. It is just, unfortunately, a big part of the marketplace. And
in that case, I would just say that this is, it is part of the reality of the brutal part of the work world. And it's not all, always going to work out when you land a job. And being unfortunately, I think this is what, individuals who are in their 20s may have over us, is that they're already looking for the next job when they're in that job. And so not having that kind of connection that you might have had before all of this happened. But that's part of the trauma. That's part of, and being able to name that, yeah, I'm afraid this is, just as I'm afraid that the next relationship is going to end the same way that the past relationship ended. All of that is part of being able to name it and then move on as much as you can, and being in charge of what you can and letting go of what you can't.
Yes. And somebody mentioned that most of the layoffs aren't performance related, and that's
absolutely
true. It's just simple cost cutting.
Yeah. And that was the piece about, when I spoke about you entering into a field of unemployment, you didn't ask for it, and you more than likely didn't do anything to cause it. But are you sitting and asking yourself over and over, what did I do? What could I have done differently? And if you are, that may be one of those coping skills that needs to be said thank you to, and then let go as much as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, let go. And we do have a question. Do interviewers truly want to hear that the applicant is committed to spending several years of their life at the job they're seeking? And I don't think you have to from an interview practice perspective, I don't think you have to toot that too hard. If they ask, are you willing to make a commitment? Say, absolutely. This is the type of job I want to look, I'm going after, and I make commitments to my jobs. So I think what they want to hear is that, number one, that you have the skills and it's the type of work you want to do, and that you will do a great job. That's, I think, the most important part. And if you want to practice those skills, once again, I'd recommend the pit crew is a great place to kind of practice that. And then also with Walt Glass's sessions. Yeah, it's practicing those phrases out loud is what's important there. Okay. Baby boomers have real value to offer. That is so true. Thank you for that. Good. And we've posted the Dallas Pit Crew .com, and also there's an email address if you do want to sign up for a practice interview. Okay. All right. So I think that's most of the questions. I think I've addressed all the questions. I don't know, Jeff, if you've seen any on Facebook or anything. Any other questions?
Mike, no, nothing on Facebook. I know we've had several people watching on Facebook. I mean, this is just a great presentation. I mean,
Good. And I wanted to give, before we do a final wrap up, give Rozan just a chance to kind of summarize any key points that you want us as an audience for takeaways.
Yeah, and especially being able to hear some of the questions. You've had to walk through a door that you didn't want to walk through. And now what are you going to do now that you've had to walk through it? Hopefully in most transitions in your life, you've gotten to choose whether you open that door and walk through that threshold into the next phase of your life. But in this case, you didn't get that opportunity. So now how do you name what's happened in this to you? Name the feelings, name the behaviors that you're experiencing. So when I say name, yeah, today I'm not having a good day. I'm going to go sit and watch a Hallmark Christmas movie. And, or I am concerned that I'm about to implode a relationship. I better get some help. What is it that, where are you? And being able to name, and that takes some being awake, and that takes objectivity. I hope that you have a great support system in your life that loves you and embraces you as you go through this, and is accepting, and being able to hear their feedback as to how they see you moving through this transition, because this is one of those transitions that is, like in many cases, a death. So allowing yourself time to grieve what's happened to you and how it could change the trajectory of your life moving forward and what you've given up. Being able to name it, that this is a significant loss for many of you, and that there are no easy fixes. I think that that's one that, I mean, my work, I don't believe in butterflies and rainbows and sunshine. I'm very real. This is a real situation, and there aren't easy fixes. But you staying in your container, whatever that container looks like for you, meaning your safe space with your people, with knowing like Carol said, knowing your strengths, knowing your skills, knowing your abilities. You have all of that part of that container. You're and holding as you're listening and waiting for those callbacks. All of these are the emotional pieces that are not that easy, but you got to do it. And I love the fact of the accountability buddies. That's really powerful. But if you're in trouble, reach out for help.
That's an important message. Well, thank you so much for your time, Rozan, and working in between your client sessions that you're conducting. I know you've got a very full schedule and you teach at SMU too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate having the opportunity to be here.
And thank you, Jeff, for having us.
Great. Well, thank you
Thanks,
both.
Rozan.
This was really, really great. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the information, the preparation. I know you all spent some time talking about this, trying to make sure we covered all these important points. So, thank you very much for being with us. Great information. If you have not, just for everybody who's not on the call, if you've not put your 30-second introductions in the Zoom chat window, that way we can get you on the roster. We will get you all the contact information. When I get that information about the SMU information, I'll be sure to get that sent out to everybody also. But only as long as I know you were here today, as long as I have your email address and I see that you're in the chat window so I can add you to our roster. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Hopefully you'll join us. But next week will be the first week since January 1st that I'm going to take a week off, and we will do no sessions next week. So everybody have a wonderful Thanksgiving. The following week, the last day of November and the first week of December, we will do LinkedIn Tuesdays, LinkedIn Search Engine Optimization with Ruth Lipsky. On interviewing Wednesdays, on Wednesday, distinctive interviewing with Walt Glass. On Thursday, be effective resume Thursday, top resume tips for your resume. And then next Friday, or Friday, December 3rd, we will do open forum here at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Today's session was not recorded for the public, but you can find prior sessions on the Career USA YouTube page. Please subscribe. We really appreciate it. That way you'll find out about all the latest postings that we put on here. On the Career USA YouTube channel, here's what it looks like. Click on where you see the green arrow, click on playlist, and then that will put it into different lists that I've put together so that you can find whatever event you're looking for. We're under the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. Don't click on the video, but click down below where you see view full playlist, and then up will come a list of all the different dates and topics and titles, and that way you can find out what session you'd like to go. And just know that for all the North Dallas things, all the speakers start about 30 minutes into the presentation. If you'd like to join us for lunch today, pizza, pasta, salad, hot cinnamon rolls. Join us at Mama's Pizza today at 12:30. Come out and just come enjoy. Come enjoy. It's a tradition, before Thanksgiving, before you stuff yourself full of turkey and cranberry sauce, you have to stuff yourself with something other than turkey and cranberry sauce and pumpkin pie. So come have a slice or two of pizza. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend. Carol, thank you again. Rozan, thank you very much again. And have a great, safe, and happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you afterwards.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. This was wonderful.
Good. Thanks for joining us.